Alright, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to attempt, we're gonna get it done. I don't know if we're gonna get it done today, but we're gonna do the clutch on the Evo X. I've been putting this off for a while. I knew it had to be done eventually, so I have about 90K, about 90,000 miles on the stock clutch. So I have a spare flywheel that I picked up from my boy Roy, so shout out to Roy for that. It's getting resurfaced now, so hopefully by the time I have this taken apart, the flywheel will be good to go. I can go pick that up from the machine shop and get that thrown on the car. So I have the parts laid out over here. So I have the transmission fluid here. I have other drivetrain fluids here that I'm gonna replace since I hit 90K miles. ARP flywheel bolts. Picked up the ACT monolock collar. The competition stage 3 clutch, which is brand new. I was actually gonna pick this up from a buddy. He had one that had like very low miles on it, but I figured since I'm taking it apart, I'm gonna go ahead and pick up one brand new. Comes with the throwout bearing, obviously, and an alignment tool, just like just about every other clutch kit. I also picked up the upgraded master cylinder. So this is actually, I believe, a master cylinder from like an Evo 8 or 9. And this kit here will allow me to install it into the Evo X. So the whole reason behind replacing that is because the OEM one on the Evo X is actually made of plastic. Once you replace the clutch, I guess they split apart, is from what I read. And we don't want that. We don't want to be stranded out on the street somewhere. So we're going to go ahead and replace that as well. I don't know that I'll replace that today or in this same video. I may actually save that for another video. But we are going to go ahead and begin the clutch replacement process. So I have the Evo in the garage. We're going to go ahead and get it jacked up. Or actually, before I get it jacked up, I think I'm going to go ahead and remove everything in the engine bay that's kind of in the way of the top transmission bolts. So let's go ahead and pop the hood and we can take a look at that to see what's actually all in the way. Gotta remove the intake, I guess the blow-off valve. I believe part of the engine harness is on top of the transmission, so I'll have to move that out of the way. Obviously disconnect the shift linkage, and I don't know what else is there, but we'll remove that. Whatever's in the way of those bolts, we're gonna have to remove those. So we will start there. After that, we'll get the car jacked up and go from there. Okay, got several things out of the way. Still have to disconnect the shift linkage. I actually upgraded those shifter cable bushings. There's a couple plugs here, so I'll disconnect those plugs. We also have the slave cylinder here, which is held on by 2 bolts. Looks like it's just a 12. Just these 2 bolts. You don't have to remove this one back here, or you don't have to disconnect the hard line. Got those things done. I actually think I'm gonna have to remove the bracket that the shifter cables sit on, so I'm actually gonna go ahead and unbolt those. Looks like it's held on by maybe 3 bolts, maybe 1, 2, 3. So I'm actually gonna remove those, move that out of the way also. And after that, I think I'm good as far as everything up here, up top. Might actually have to remove the intercooler piping. I don't know yet. Looks like I might be able to get around not having to do that, but we'll see. But yeah, let's go ahead and do that, and then we should be good up here. All right, so it looks like I have everything off the top of the transmission that's in the way. So now I'm gonna go ahead and jack the car up, get it up on all 4s, go ahead and drain both the transmission and the transfer case. And I think from there, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the axle nuts, remove the axles, everything like that. So that way we can dig a little deeper as far as going ahead and getting this transmission pulled apart. All right, fluid is drained from both the transfer and the transmission. It'll require a 24mm socket, just for those that don't know. Now I'm gonna move on to removing the axle nut, which I believe is a 32, I believe. Undo the suspension so that way I can go ahead and remove the axles. From there, I believe we will undo the transmission and transfer case bolts. I still have to remove the throwout bearing, which I have never done on this, so I actually have to figure out how to do that, because if I don't disconnect that, I won't be able to separate the transmission from the motor. So for now, let's go ahead and work on this suspension and the axle nut. So after not one, not two, but 3 trips to AutoZone, I was able to finally get the tool I needed to go ahead and remove the axle stud. So I was able to remove the axle using a pry bar and a screwdriver, like a big screwdriver. I went back and forth between those, and I was able to get that. Didn't require a whole lot of effort, but I got that taken out. But I needed a slide hammer of some sort to go ahead and remove the axle stud. So this is the kit I used, the slide hammer. What is it? Slide hammer puller kit from AutoZone. If you decide you want to get it, it's part number 27026. And, what I did was, so it comes with this like attachment here, this adapter, and I'm sure this isn't the proper way to use it, but it worked for me, so I'm happy. So I put a screw through one of the holes, and I threaded in a screw into the axle stud. And yeah, the whole purpose of this screw here was so that way this one didn't slide up and down. But yeah, so I did that, and I of course used a slide hammer, and it slid right out, no problem at all. Nothing was damaged. It was pretty cool. So next, I still need to go ahead and release that throwout bearing. So I'm gonna get underneath and do that. So I guess apparently you just reach in there with a flathead screwdriver and you can pop it loose. So I'm gonna take a look. It's actually, I believe right here. I went ahead and removed the little dust cover, the little rubber dust cover. So I should be able to reach in there and release the throwout bearing from the clutch fork. And I guess at that point I should be able to, or I guess when it comes time, I can go ahead and pull the transmission from the motor. Still have to remove the transmission bolts and also the transfer case bolts. So, and also the axle on the passenger side. So let's get back to work.
Day 2.
All right, so the MVP came through. My boy Roy over here, he came through, helped me to release the throwout bearing. So that was done. So shout out to Roy over there. So that's done. But now I'm gonna go ahead and begin taking the bolts out of both the transmission and the transfer case. So I believe there's 3 at the top of the transfer case. So I'm gonna have to remove the turbo inlet to get to those. And then there should be 3 more at the bottom, which the bottom ones should be okay or easy, but the ones at the top, probably gonna be a pain. I don't do those. Do have a jack underneath the motor right now to support it. Then do the transmission bolts, and I should be good to go as far as separating the transmission from the motor. So hopefully this can be done today. Hopefully, fingers crossed, but I'm gonna go ahead and get back to it.
Day 3.
Okay, so the trans is basically ready to come apart from the motor, except for one last bolt that's on the backside. It's on the backside. I can't show you actually from the top, unfortunately, but it's on the backside of the motor, the last bolt, and it's a complete pain to get to. So I have the transfer case disconnected. I'm actually gonna have to go ahead and remove the downpipe so that way I can move the transfer case over just a little bit more. And then once I do that, I'll be able to get to that last bolt, crack that one loose, remove it, and I can start prying it apart. I actually already started prying it apart, and I realized that, or it felt like there was still one more bolt holding on, and I was right, there is. So I have to remove that one, and I should be good to go after that. Okay, last bolt removed for the transmission. Last bolt, got it. Pretty sure I'm ready to go ahead and start separating the motor from the transmission. There's already room. You can already like maybe wedge your pinky in between there, so it's already starting to pull apart now, which is good. Oh, for those that don't know, this is actually my first time ever removing the transmission on an Evo 10, so yeah. I can't say that it was actually a pain. It's taken longer than I expected, mainly because I have other things to do, other obligations. But yeah, let's go ahead and get back to it. So I guess I'm gonna go ahead and throw a jack up underneath and try to try to get this transmission out of there, okay? Okay, the transmission is finally out of the car. Finally out of the car. So now the fun part starts. I get to go ahead and throw on the new clutch, the competition stage 3 in the ACT monolock. I went ahead and removed the clutch, the OEM clutch, and the flywheel. The pressure plate is held on by, I think, 6 bolts, I think. And behind that is the clutch disc, which the clutch disc is held on just by the pressure plate. And after that, the flywheel will be exposed and you can go ahead and remove the flywheel. You will need an impact to remove that, unless you have someone that can hold the crank pulley to prevent it from moving. If you don't have a brand new flywheel, you will have to have your flywheel resurfaced, which I picked up one from my friend, which I mentioned earlier. Had that one had this already resurfaced, so that one's good to go. So the clutch disc, I was actually expecting it to look a lot worse than it actually does. It's not horrible. Obviously, it's not great either, but definitely needed to be replaced since I'm making more than stock power. So now the fun part begins, reassembling everything, which is pretty much the reverse of removal. So rather than bore you guys with a time lapse of that, I'm actually just gonna go ahead and do that. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. But if you have any questions about the clutch removal, about how much of a pain it is, go ahead and drop those in the comments for me. Thanks for checking out the video. Subscribe for weekly videos, and I will see you guys in the next one.